The Honest Truth, Chapter 5. Miles to Go, 113. I counted my breaths as I watched Seattle slide away out the bus window. I was panting. I didn't want anyone to notice me. My legs were still jelly from the run to catch the bus. My body wasn't used to exercise. It didn't like it. The headache was sharpening its teeth on the inside of my skull. I stretched the fingers of my right hand. They burned from carrying Bo in the duffel. He was still in there, on the seat next to me, between me and the window. I rested my elbow on him softly, so he'd know I was right next to him. "Why are you breathing so hard?" A voice had popped up over the back of the seat in front of me. All I could see was curly red hair, a freckled forehead, and curious green eyes. I looked around. No one else was watching. I shrugged. Just tired, I guess. I looked back. Out the window, hoping she'd leave me alone. Tired from what? I pretended I didn't hear her. She leaned farther over the seat. Tired from what? I blew my breath out through my nose and looked at her. From running to catch the bus. The girl nodded. "I'm going to ask my brother if I can sit next to you," she said, and before I could argue, her head disappeared. The kid sitting next to her looked about 16, and he pulled his earphone out long enough to say, "Yeah, sure, whatever." In a flash, she was squeezing into my seat. I didn't have a chance to fight it. I slid Bo over against the side and pressed in next to him. The girl flopped in beside me, so close I could smell her Doritos breath. "I'm Shelby," she said. "I'm 6. "Okay. What's your name?" I almost said it, then remembered. My brain scrambled and spat out the first name that came to my mind. Jess. Jessie, I mean." "You going to see your daddy, too?" "Huh?" "On the bus. You going to see your daddy?" "No." "Oh, I am. It's my first time." "Your first time seeing your dad?" "No, it's my first time seeing him at his new house." "Oh." I looked back out the window. The city was gone now. There were only warehouses and smokestacks, and the other cars on the highway. My mom and dad got divorced. Oh. I didn't want conversation. I wanted to sleep. "Jessie?" I licked my lips and rolled my eyes, then looked at her. "Yeah." "Are your mom and dad divorced?" "No." "Oh." I looked out the window again. Against me, Bo wiggled and tried to scratch at himself in the duffel. I quietly scratched at him through the material. I wished the stupid kid would leave me alone so I could let him stick his nose out and get some fresh air. "What happened to your face?" Her fingers reached up toward my black eye. "Nothing," I said, pulling away. I locked my eyes on the whole bunch of nothing out the window. I could feel her still watching me. I clenched my jaw. Maybe leveling with her would shut her up. I turned and leaned down and looked her right in the eye. "A group of guys beat me up last night," I said in a low whisper. "They beat the crap out of me and took almost all my money." Her eyes widened. "Why'd they do that?" I blinked. "Because I kept asking them too many questions." She thought about that for a minute. "I would have stopped asking them stuff," she said. I fought it, but a little smile pulled up at the corners of my mouth. "I don't think you would have," I said back. She smiled back. "Probably not. I like talking." I noticed. We sat in silence for a moment. I rubbed a hand up and down Bo's side. He sighed, a sleepy doggy sigh. The sound of the road humming under the bus covered it up. "If they took most of your money," she asked, "then how'd you get a bus ticket?" "I already had the bus ticket. I bought it on the internet." "Oh." She scratched at a scab on her knee. "My mom and dad got divorced. They just did. We live with just my mom now, because my daddy moved out. This is my first time to go and stay with him at his own house." "I need to do some work now," I said. I pulled my notebook and pen out of my backpack. The last words I had written were the ones from the diner, back before the wolves and the angels. I felt like I should write something about the angels, even if they were only cooks in a noisy kitchen. I remembered the angels' voices waking me up that morning. I felt for the words, then counted. In my head, I started to write. Waking from nightmares. "What are you doing?" "Homework," I said without looking up. I thought and counted on my fingers, then wrote the next line. Angels' voices pulling me up. Pull me up. Why are you counting? Shh. I remembered the phone call. I remembered almost giving up. I remembered my sadness turning into anger, and then my anger turning into something else, something better. I knew what the last line should be. Leave the wolves behind. I put the pen down and reread the words. I checked my counting and nodded. Goodness, I was tired, and that weird kind of hungry that doesn't want to eat. Why are all your words in bunches of threes? Shelby asked. She pointed at what I had just written, and the 3 lines I'd written in the restaurant. I was too tired to lie, too tired to fight. This kid wasn't giving up, and maybe it wasn't that bad to have someone to talk to who wasn't punching me in the face. It's a kind of a poem, I said, called a haiku. It's always 3 lines. Why? It just is, and the lines always have the same number of syllables. What's a syllable? A syllable? It's just a sound, like this. The first line of a haiku always has 5 syllables. I read the first line and clapped softly with each sound. Waking from nightmares. 5 syllables. She nodded her head. The second line always has 7 syllables. I read the second line and she clapped with me this time. Angels' voices pull me up. 7, she said with a big smile. And then the last line goes back to 5. Leave the wolves behind. It's 5, 7, 5. She smiled and ran her finger over the words on the page. I like hockey poems, she said. It's haiku, and I do too. They're my favorite kind. My friend and I... My voice stopped when I thought of Jessie. I swallowed and kept talking to fight the burning in my eyes. My best friend and I love them. Our favorite teacher in 3rd grade taught us about them. We use them like a kind of code, I guess. We write notes in haiku. We even talk in haiku sometimes. It's just kind of our thing, our special thing, hers and mine. Shelby scrunched up her eyebrows. Your best friend is a girl? Like a girlfriend? No, just like a friend who's a girl. We've been best friends forever. Oh. The bus rumbled and shivered around us. I closed my notebook. A man in the seat behind us started snoring. When I get there, Shelby said, I'm not going to talk to him. Not for the whole weekend. What do you mean? My daddy. I'm not going to say one word the whole entire time. Why not? Her chin stuck out. Her green eyes started to water. 'Cause I'm mad. I'm mad. I'm so mad. Her voice got a little broken around the edges. Her fingers were tight in her lap. I could see her anger in her lips, in the red of her cheeks, in her flaring nostrils. I knew all about anger. That's the truth. Want to take a picture? I asked. She blinked. Huh? I pulled my camera out from inside my jacket and held it up. Her fingers relaxed a little, her eyebrows unscrunched. Here, I said. Smile. I'll take your picture first. She bit at her bottom lip and squinted at me. I could tell she didn't want to let go of her anger. Smile, I said again, and stuck my tongue out at her. A reluctant smile broke through her frown. I snapped a picture. Perfect, I said, and her smile stuck around. Your turn. I pulled the strap over my head and handed her the camera. She turned it around in her hands and looked at it. Her face screwed up in confusion. Where's the screen? She asked. I laughed. It's not a digital camera. It's an old-fashioned camera with actual film you have to put in and take out. It was my grandpa's. Just look through the eye hole there and push the button on the top. She shrugged, then squinted through the camera at me. You have to smile, she said, one eye squinched shut as she lined up the picture. I smiled with half my mouth. And take off your hat. No. She unsquinched her eye at the hardness in my voice. Her smile started to fall down. I mean, I don't want to. Go ahead. I smiled with all my face, and she smiled back and took the picture. She stared at the camera for a second. How do you see the picture? You don't, not until you go to the store and get the film developed. It's old school, but it's in there. Huh. Do you take a lot of pictures? Yeah, I like it. How come? I shrugged. I don't know. I like the feeling of catching something, of saving something. I looked out the window at the trees and signs and the warm houses of strangers zipping past. It's like, I don't know, grabbing a little piece of life. All this stuff happens, all these little moments go flying past, and then they're gone, and then you're gone. I took one long, big breath and let it out slow to cloud the bus window. But when you take a picture, that one moment isn't gone. You caught it, it's yours, and you get to keep it. I looked back at Shelby. She blinked blankly at me. Okay, she said. I smiled and held up my hand. She yawned a big little kid yawn and gave me back the camera. The bus's tires thumped on the highway like a heartbeat. She dropped her head back against the seat. I unzipped the duffel a couple of inches and felt Bo's sniffing nose poke wetly out. I rested my hand on the duffel right where his ears were and let my head fall back against the seat, too. Out the window it was gray and dark. It looked cold. Shelby yawned again and her head rocked over against my shoulder. I let it stay there. I thought about my mom and dad. A sudden sharp stab of love drilled down into my heart. It was followed by a cold splash of sorry. Sorry for all that I was doing to them, as if I hadn't put them through enough. They'd always done nothing but the best for me, and now I was doing the absolute worst to them. I had to do it, but I didn't have to feel good about it. You shouldn't be mad at your dad, I said to Shelby. Why not? Her voice was sleepy. I shook my head. I don't know. I think it's just better not to be. She didn't say anything back. My eyes blinked slower with every car we passed. I swallowed a yawn and let my eyes close. The headache was gnawing on my brain with rusty razor teeth. I thought of the pills in my backpack, but I didn't reach for them. Jessie? Yeah? You said you're not going to see your daddy. Where are you going? We zoomed past a green sign on the side of the highway. It said, Paradise, 110 miles. My stomach twisted around a little red knot of fear. I'm going to climb a mountain, I answered.